Welcome back to Joel Goldsmith Heart Training, the channel where we move truth from the head to the heart, one step at a time. We've come a long way together. We've claimed our spiritual origin, step 1, open to infinite supply, step 2, and reclaimed our divine inheritance that time cannot touch, step 3. Today, step 4 brings us to one of the most practically powerful truths in all of Joel Goldsmith's teachings, and it addresses something every human being faces. Where do we turn when we need power beyond ourselves? When the diagnosis arrives? When the relationship fractures? When the financial pressure is crushing? When we've done everything humanly possible and it isn't enough, where do we look? Goldsmith answers with 1 John 4:2-4. He that is within you is greater than he that is in the world. Here it becomes necessary to remember that consciousness is God, and that everything exists as an inseparable part of consciousness. It naturally follows that consciousness is greater than any of its formations. Consciousness, not a power you call upon, not a force you invoke from the outside. The very consciousness that you are, that governs, contains, and sustains everything, is already here, already greater. That is not a head statement. That is a heart truth waiting to be felt. Foundational narrative, the challenge of appearances. When students first encountered the teachings of the infinite way, many expected spiritual practice to involve fighting or overcoming evil through spiritual force. But Joel S. Goldsmith emphasized a completely different approach. He explained that the moment we fight evil, we give it reality in our consciousness. He wrote, "Whatever you fight, you strengthen. Whatever you resist persists. Instead of battling appearances, spiritual realization dissolves them." This insight was revolutionary for many students because it changed the entire approach to healing. Step presentation. The fourth step is a direct confrontation with humanity's deepest habit, externalizing power. We project power onto doctors, governments, money, relationships, luck. And whenever those external things fail us, as they inevitably do, we feel powerless. Goldsmith dissolves this at the root. Consciousness is not a tool you use. Consciousness is what you are, and it is the governing reality of everything you experience. Consciousness is at the very center of your being, and from out of your consciousness emanates all of which you are conscious or aware. Out of consciousness comes the universe in its entirety. Nothing can exist outside of consciousness or apart from its control. Consciousness is at the very center of your being, and from out of your consciousness emanates all of which you are conscious or aware. Out of consciousness comes the universe in its entirety. Nothing can exist outside of consciousness or apart from its control. I can of mine own self do nothing, the Father within me. He doeth the works, Jesus, John 5:30, quoted by Joel Goldsmith in the 7 Steps. Exposition and teaching. Notice what Goldsmith says. Consciousness does. It constructs bodies and businesses. It governs all human contacts and relationships. It prepares a place for you. This isn't poetic metaphor. This is Goldsmith's lived experience and the lived experience of thousands of his students. When consciousness is recognized, when the within is acknowledged as the governing reality, the without begins to reorganize. But here is the challenge for heart training. Most of us believe this when things are calm. We lose it the moment the world starts screaming. That's where practice comes in. Not the practice of affirmation, the practice of returning. Returning to center. Returning to the awareness of what is within. Returning to the felt presence of the consciousness that is greater than what is in the world. Demonstration story. A demonstration story. The night everything looked Darkest. Susan was a single mother who received a frightening medical diagnosis when her children were young. She had been studying the infinite way for 2 years, but, as she later admitted, mostly in my head. The night after the diagnosis, she sat in her kitchen alone at midnight, terrified. She picked up a Goldsmith book and read Step 4. She told me, something in me said, "Stop reading. Just sit," and I did. And I just said internally, "He that is within me is greater than this diagnosis, greater than this fear, greater than what the doctor said." And I kept saying it, not loudly, not desperately, just very quietly, like I was reminding myself of something I'd always known but forgotten. She described what happened next as a warmth in her chest, a settling, a strange peace that had no logical basis. "I didn't get a miracle cure that night," she said, "but I found something I couldn't lose, the awareness that something greater was already present in me. And that awareness carried me through every treatment, every fear, every dark night that followed." She healed, but she says the real healing was what happened in that kitchen at midnight, the moment the within became more real to her than the without. Heart practice. This week's heart practice is one of stillness and recognition. When a problem arises this week, large or small, before you react, before you search for an external solution, pause, just one breath, and inwardly acknowledge, "He that is within me is greater than this." This consciousness, which I am, which governs all things, is present now. It goes before me. It prepares the way. I do not need to fight this. I need only recognize what is already here. Then proceed with whatever action is called for, but proceed from that recognition, not from fear. Goldsmith called this practicing the presence not as a technique to get results, but as a way of living that is itself the result. The whole secret of spiritual living is to bring yourself to a place of inner quiet, a place of listening, a place where you become aware of an inner presence and power, and then let it live your life. Pause. Take a few moments of quiet reflection. Bring to mind a difficulty or challenge you may be facing. Instead of reacting to the appearance, gently acknowledge this truth. Evil has no power in divine reality. God is the only power. God is the one power, one presence, one infinite intelligence. Allow the mind to rest in the awareness of divine harmony. Let resistance dissolve. Remain in stillness for a moment. Take a few moments of quiet reflection. Bring to mind a difficulty or challenge you may be facing. Instead of reacting to the appearance, gently acknowledge this truth. Evil has no power in divine reality. God is the only power. God is the one power, one presence, one infinite intelligence. Allow the mind to rest in the awareness of divine harmony. Let resistance dissolve. Remain in stillness for a moment. If today's message opened something in you, share it. Someone in your world is looking outside themselves for power they already have within. Subscribe to Joel Goldsmith Heart Training, like the video, and leave a comment. What would change in your life if you truly felt that what is within you is greater than any challenge in your world? See you in Step 5. The intelligence that knows all things is already present within you. This teaching is an invitation to trust it more fully. If you feel led to support the Living Christ Awakening work, and you feel the pull of this teaching, that pull itself is the presence calling. In the description below, you will find a Show Love link, an appeal for quiet participation in this unfolding of consciousness across the world. In Step 5, we arrive at one of the most counterintuitive teachings in all of mysticism. I and my Father are one, and Goldsmith reveals that the way to live this oneness is not to speak truth, but to listen for it. The good listener, he says, is the best minister of the Christ. We'll see what that means and practice it in Step 5.